Can you tell us a little bit about the agenda for tomorrow's talks with the Iranians? What will be the focus of the discussions?
Diplomacy moving forward. The president has obviously been quite clear in his demands of the Iranian regime. Zero nuclear capability is something he's been very explicit about, and he wants to see if a deal can be struck. And while these negotiations are taking place, I would remind the Iranian regime that the president has many options at his disposal, aside from diplomacy, as the commander-in-chief of the most powerful military in the history of the world.
And that was White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt yesterday. Nuclear talks are happening this morning in Oman as we speak, but there's already disagreement over the scope of the negotiations. Iran's foreign minister posted to X late last night. He says this: Iran enters diplomacy with open eyes and a steady memory of the past year. We engage in good faith and stand firm on our rights. Iran sees the talks as limited to the country's nuclear program, but the U.S. is pressing for more on ballistic missiles and their support of proxy terrorist groups. Yesterday, Iran's Revolutionary Guard seized 2 oil tankers in the Persian Gulf, with the USS Abraham Lincoln nearby. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting that a second wave of popular anger is building right now in Iran. The protests are bubbling up once again. Joining me now is former Trump and George W. Bush State Department Senior Advisor Christian Whiton. Christian, what's your reaction, and what do you want to see here in terms of President Trump getting involved in Iran killing its citizens?
Well, he's already been involved more than really any president in U.S. history with this. You may recall that there were big protests in Iran in 2009 and Obama's first year, and then again during the Biden administration. And both men basically sat on their hands, issued very blithe statements about what was going on, as opposed to actually doing something. So Trump has already leaned in here. He said we're locked and loaded, implying he would use the military potentially to help the protesters. It's difficult to do that, difficult to sort of orchestrate a political dissent movement with the military. But I think he's taking advantage for U.S. interests here, and the key U.S. interest is an end to Iranian nuclear fuel enrichment. That would be a big win if you could get that.
Yeah, for sure. But the president has also been walking a balance with communist China. Chinese President Xi Jinping and President Trump holding an intense phone call on Wednesday of this week over trade issues and the U.S. arms deal with Taiwan. And a spokesperson from China, Mao Ning, writes this on X after that call, quote, Taiwan is China's territory. China must safeguard its own sovereignty and territorial integrity and will never allow Taiwan to be separated. The U.S. must handle the issue of arms sales to Taiwan with prudence. Christian, you wrote an op-ed in the National Interest arguing that President Trump has been reasonable in negotiating with China and that it should be reciprocated in a trade for democracy activist and former media tycoon Jimmy Lai. Lai's sentencing is set for Monday in a Hong Kong court after being charged again with conspiracy and sedition. Now, the president is going to be headed to Beijing in April for a meeting with Xi Jinping. What's your analysis here?
Yeah, I think that the issues that are being discussed are natural to come up, Taiwan, and very difficult to resolve. It's China, not the United States, that's causing Taiwan to be in the news, because it's China that's encircling Taiwan. It's using its shipping fleet, commercial shipping fleet, and look what looks like some sort of blockade rehearsal, a Dunkirk in reverse, if you will. But Trump has really tried to meet Xi halfway, if you will. He's been reasonable. He's allowed the export of some H20 and maybe H200 chips that are produced by NVIDIA. These are mildly sophisticated AI chips, not the top of the line. But one thing they could do is, have some confidence building step where the Chinese reciprocate. We could desanction some individuals who were sanctioned in Hong Kong and Beijing after the 2019 crackdown, the 2020 bogus national security law. Wouldn't cost us much and would give a face-saving way for the Chinese to let Jimmy free so he doesn't die in jail. China has to do something if it wants Trump to continue being the nice Trump.
Well, especially since we get one punch in the face after another from communist China. I mean, this week we talked about this illegal, unlicensed laboratory in California run by Chinese, and basically they found in the refrigerator there COVID, HIV, malaria, traces of all these 20 infectious agents. I mean, is there any reason to believe that the CCP was unaware of that?
No, I don't think so. The Chicoms still have, of course, an extensive intelligence gathering operation in the United States, probably the best in the world. It's pervasive. It's not just going for top-level spies. The idea that we still have Chinese researchers or any researchers with ties to China in the United States is ludicrous to me. I think Customs does a good job of occasionally catching these people coming into the country with biological agents. The question is the ones they missed. I can't even believe we have direct flights to China, considering they created basically the COVID pandemic and still haven't paid for that. But, you know, we have a tougher posture, but it may not be tough enough.
Look,
Yeah.
I understand that we're still reliant on the China supply chain, but every day something else and evidence that they constantly undermine us. President Trump knows all about it, and he knows his customer here. He's going to go meet Xi Jinping in April. But it's hard to understand negotiating with truly an enemy. And we also have all those Chinese stocks traded on our exchanges. So we're basically funding the expansion of the CCP as well, the #1 adversary of America.
Right. And of course, all those audits, I would have to presume, are bogus. I mean, when did a communist government not lie completely about economic performance? The idea of having the U.S. financial system exposed to those Chinese assets, I think, is dangerous. You know, this is Trump is, I think, picking and choosing his battles and doesn't want to go all out with China right now, with Europe in the balance trade-wise. But tougher posture is needed.
I agree. I agree with that. President Trump has a plan, and he doesn't show his cards. Christian, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Maria.
All right, Christian Whiton joining us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.